mulengerera wala nno. I agree that the PLU will determine the next generation of leaders of NRM from the top party in the Republican Party of America. They became a force, and they are the ones who revolutionized the Congress and the Senate, and they even were the force behind Donald Trump. Now, in a situation where any survey, any of you in the media, you have seen all surveys that have been done online, offline. Even if you go to the border stage now and you ask, who do you want to be the speaker? They'll say Mao.
Mao.
I have seen the debate which has followed the Mukono pronouncement. It is mixed. So, we have got to avoid the politics of falling into things. So what is my expectation? My expectations are very modest. My expectation is not that I should be imposed on the parliament as speaker. I expect that, like I was invited in Chankwanzi, I will be invited to the NRM caucus in the spirit of unity, which we all agree on. And we talk objectively about the agenda of the 12th Parliament, and we agree. I've been called a visitor in NRM. As a visitor, you must recognize boundaries. And the head of the home can change the rules anytime. The head of the home can say lunch will be eaten at 10 a.m. Supper will be eaten at midnight. As a visitor, really, you have very little to say about that. The visitor can say all lights must be switched off by 8 a.m. and the visitor has to comply. That one I accept. So, what I believe is that there should be clear processes. But if one is locked out, then you feel that you have not been treated well. I'm glad the president intervened and I was not locked out of Chankwanzi. I believe I'll not be locked out of facing the caucus, which is the caucus of the voters. Let the caucus be the ones to pronounce themselves and say, in our considered opinion, for the following reasons, this is the person we will rally behind. I still believe I have an opportunity and a chance to be the speaker. You know how I think. One day somebody told me, are you sure you can be speaker? What chance do you have? Then I said, by the way, if I'm on the top floor of a very tall building and the building catches fire and I'm told that I have a 1% chance to survive if I jump, I'll jump immediately. I've not heard anybody saying Mao has no chance. There are those who had said the former speaker was too big to fall. But that's the same false evidence appearing real. That's not David's logic. The logic of the generals who ran away from Goliath was that the guy is too big, there's no way we can beat him. David, with his sling, turned that logic upside down and said, the guy is so big I can't even miss him. That's the logic with which I approach this fight. Others are saying, too big, how can we manage? I say, oh, too big, how can I miss? Even with a butida. Let me now speak about the opposition finally. Life is very ironic. The opposition should thank me. You were supposed to be walloped. Yeah. You heard it. They said that in the last parliament you were swallowed. That in this parliament you are going to be walloped. You should thank me for disarming those who wanted to wallop you. That is really being walloped. Now, this is my thinking on the opposition. And that is why the NRM should not think they are risking anything. The first question is Mao a patriot? And that question should go to the Patriotic League of Uganda. Because even among them they have unpatriotic people. Because you don't just become a patriot by wearing a league. That I have seen some of the most immoral people wearing the biggest rosaries. They're even the first in the line for Holy Communion. So let other people talk about you. That's why I said, is Mao a patriot? When I was risking my life to go and talk to Kony, was I doing it for myself and my family? I wanted Uganda to be peaceful. When I was campaigning so that President Museveni's votes are a block where I come from, was I doing it for myself? It's because I don't only preach unity, I practice it.
Even the time you went to Rwanda for purity.
I have been to many countries, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya. We have been the biggest advocates for iPod. That is because we are not dead fish. We swim in a direction we believe is right. And sometimes you pay a price. That is what DP is known for. And that's why we are respected. Partisan politics. And he refused to listen, and you saw it ended in tears in 1966. We have 5 years of the 12th parliament. I don't want a situation where people will say, Mao warned us about improvising a speaker. So to my friends in the opposition, being opposition is not a badge of honor. It means your votes were not enough for you to form the government. That's what it means. But I hear some people take a lot of pride. They even quarrel. But only opposition. I mean, it is like you have a loser's cup and you say, no, you can't come and help us carry the loser's cup. Honestly, what sort of politics is that? Being opposition means you have the loser's cup. Now, nobody celebrates the loser's cup. I think in football, the loser's cup is the one they said, the one of third and fourth position. So, they take so much pride. Oh, you see opposition, you. And this is like saying, you are not one of us who lost. People are fighting to be winners, for you are fighting that it's, you losers are already enough. The only way you can be winners is if the losers keep becoming more and more. Then you become more than the winners. Then you become the new winners. So there is some mental illness in some of our leaders, which I see. Because I've seen some people had been hired to attack me and so on. All of a sudden, when things change, they are not looking good anymore. DP has a PhD in opposition politics. Because we have opposed and opposed and opposed And yet we were the first government before independence. Some of you young DPs have even forgotten that your party has ever been in. If the president of Uganda is not ashamed to introduce himself as a DP, though he says that his DP is not the one of Mao, I need to find out which one was his DP. He says, no, that is DP of Mao. Maybe because of the bickering and the small thinking in the DP elite. Because if you have people whose only thinking is, Mao yafuna anzi safuna, that's the reason why they are running around. But it is not true. There was a time they also funad, only that they have forgotten. There was a time they also got, and Mao was leading his normal life, not complaining. The Baganda say, yagaliza ofune, atayagaliza tafuna. Because I was doing okwagaliza, that's where I ended up in the cabinet. But to make that a matter of life and death to the extent that you want to tear your party apart, you look at the way the opposition is. FDC came from NRM. They then said Mugisha Muntu is a mole. He left. Then those who remained again disagreed. That means Mugisha Muntu was not the problem. Now you have PFF. So a party which was solid like FDC now has 10 members of parliament. Nine. It was, in our place there, it was the biggest challenger to NRM. Now after NRM, the next party is DP. Yeah. Then we had our friends in DP here. They said Mao is a dictator, he is not leading the party well, that he is a mole, he doesn't want to work together with other opposition, that this is a party for their grandfathers, and Mao is an imposter, that my umbilical cord was not buried in their graveyards. So they left, they went to NUP. They reached there, then they quarreled. I wasn't there. So was I still the problem? No. So I have given advice to our sister party NRM, and it is just advice. I'm in no position to direct anyone. I've also given advice as an elder to the pressure group of the PLU. Now I want to talk to, and in that I said, you know, if that is the party that had a symbol in the election, that's what I would do. Yes. Now, the parties that don't get sufficient votes to form the government are the ones called the opposition. The opposition does not mean anybody who is a nuisance, then you're opposition. Otherwise, the robbers and rapists would also say they're opposition because they're opposing the law, they're interfering with the peace and tranquility. Opposition is based on the results of the last election. The goal of the opposition should be to defeat and replace the party in power at the next election. I took this from some of the notes I had prepared. Remember, I was supposed to give a speech in Chankwanzi, the speech which was aborted. So I took this paragraph which I'm sharing with you. In our constitution, that opportunity to replace the party in power comes every 5 years. So the opposition can do this through small successive victories, and that would then reduce the faith of the public in the government, so that in the next election, the electorate is persuaded to put them in power. Now, this is where DP is different from other parties. Listen carefully. Even though the role of the opposition is to bring about the defeat of the party in power, there is little merit in an opposition party making its main job to obstruct the government's efforts to perform the task it was elected to do. Let me repeat this. Even though the role of the opposition is to bring about the defeat of the party in power, there is little merit in an opposition party making it its main job to obstruct the government's effort to perform the tasks it was elected to perform. After all, when a party is given the right to govern a country, its duty is to promote the welfare of the people. So, once again, power must have purpose. You want to be speaker, for what? What are you going to do with the position? You want power, for what? You want to be president, for what? There are people even who wanted to be president of the party. For what? So that you do what? So that you call yourself Senkagale. For me, I want to be the speaker because of the reforms I'm going to introduce. And I've already mentioned some of them. We discovered that the Parliament of Uganda sits for less than 90 days in a whole year. Sitting of plenary. Under Mao's leadership, the minimum number of days must be 120.
Yeah. Mao.
Number two, we must have a calendar of Parliament set at the beginning of the session. The moment I'm elected speaker, we will have to sit in a multi-party committee and set the calendar for the Parliament so that we reduce surprises and uncertainties. The government would tell us their timetable and say, by March we are going to bring this law. By July we are going to bring this law. August we are going to bring this law. So we are all mentally prepared for it. Number three, I'll ensure that a special session is held annually, and the agenda of that session must be based on suggestions from the public. It should focus on issues the public want. First of all, the majority of members of Parliament are not in touch with their public. So we may as well directly invite the public to say, suggest, what do you want us to talk about? Do you want us to talk about the Ugandans that are being exported as labor? Do you want us to talk about land conflicts, land grabbing? Do you want us to talk about teenage pregnancy? The public should have an avenue. We also want the Prime Minister's question time to be a very serious session to ensure that Parliament upholds the principle of government accountability. It shouldn't be an empty ritual. You know, some of the questions that we hear, a member of Parliament asks, question 1, is the Prime Minister aware that the gallery is open again? As you know, the gallery, members don't, the Ugandans don't know that they actually are entitled to go to the gallery. We should have a fixed number of people who can come and access the gallery on a first come, first served basis. Those days we used to walk from Makerere and they would give you little cards. If the cards are finished, they tell you the gallery is now full, try tomorrow. So people would go and queue. Have you seen people queuing to go to the gallery? People are queuing to go and beg for support from MPs. They are not interested in the discussion because they doubt whether it can change their lives. So the most important thing is, oh, Mbaka, kumpa yo champa. But somebody would say, I want to go and see whether the Mbaka is going to increase PDM money access to ensure that corruption stops in the district, or whether my school will get a teacher's house or a new. Parliament is out of touch with the life of the country, and it is not up to date. I know for sure that we are tackling the national question, and we are also tackling the question of colonialism, the effects of colonialism and the trauma it caused. Because this system of politics was just transplanted. It is a graft. So I am not discouraged at all, and I repeat that our agreement with the NRM is a dynamic document, because you will be asking, why would I expect to be invited to the caucus? The cooperation agreement is not a monument, it is a dynamic document. Under Article 7, it is provided that new areas of cooperation will be agreed upon. And we have proposed to the President that the position of Speaker should be a new area of agreement. And I'll gladly submit to the decision of the caucus, but not the pronouncements that are not based on well-stated processes. I'm strengthened by the latest position declared by the chairman of the Electoral Commission of the NRM. After all, we want to save Uganda. So, let me explain why I believe that the NRM should rally their support for Norbert Mao. Because the agreement we have is fundamental. We have been faithful to our part of the agreement as DP. We have served faithfully. The NRM has not kept all its commitments, and many times I'm being attacked from within my own party. They say, we were supposed to get another position. You are there alone. What are you doing there? What are you doing about this? I've written so many letters, I've raised these issues with the President. Even when the opportunity came and there was a reshuffle and other people who were out of cabinet were brought in, DP was still ignored. So the question is, if the unity of Uganda is the precondition for tackling the problems we face, then why should we undermine unity by saying that now you are NRM? That is the reason why the President invited me to Chankwanzi. Against the wishes of Mama Rolls Royce.
She's now in the garden.
I was being told to stay in the compound and not even approach the so-called bedroom.
Where there was stolen money.
So, I was invited to Chankwanzi. That should give you a signal that the President is serious about the nucleus of the unity. You can have unity with other political parties. You can invite members of the opposition to meet with them, but everything must have a nucleus. And the DP NRM cooperation is the nucleus of the broader unity of Ugandans as we make that leap forward. It is not about positions, it's about what we want to achieve. So let us raise now the 4 fundamental expectations our citizens have, which any government, no matter who is the leader, has to respond to. Number 1, unity of the country. This is what we call the national question. The national question, as I talked about the last time, is how to bring diverse peoples, different languages, tribes, even interests, together in one nation. Julius Nyerere did it in Tanzania. How can you resolve the national question when politicians are fighting? The second is to ensure peace, security, and tranquility. The third is to ensure economic advancement of the people. The fourth is to ensure democracy in all its dimensions. There is no likelihood that any political party would tell the electorate that it does not believe in unity, peace, development, and democracy. We can therefore assume that all leaders, irrespective of their political affiliation, would aim to work for these fundamentals. The movement system, you remember it, which many of us opposed, perhaps prematurely, attempted to deal with a major contradiction or a distortion, namely that despite all the parties claiming to be promoting the same fundamentals, yet every 5 years the voters are required to select on the basis of some superficial differences a party to perform the tasks that in fact all the parties agree should be done. If all the parties in Uganda, DP, UPC, NRM, NUP, PFF, and so on, all agree that we need unity, peace, development, and democracy, then the question is, what are we thinking when we go into the elections and we say all these people agree on what needs to be done, but you choose one of them? So the movement system was based on putting aside the party labels in order to allow the electorate to choose the best individuals, so that those individuals can then meet in parliament to discuss the details of the agreed tasks and then cooperate in getting it done. That is the reason why in 2022 we agreed to cooperate. Now, on corruption, this is just a small battle won. I don't think we are yet even 20% in the war against corruption. This is a very, very small victory. So let us not jump around too much. But these are my thoughts on corruption in parliament. I already told you that Mao is an answer to a different question, and that question is, who can best lead parliament in tackling the problems of Uganda, including fighting corruption? I agree that the greatest vulnerability of the parliament today is not only the appearance of corruption, but the reality of it. Therefore, if we are to consolidate, there are many reasons why corruption has to be fought. Since our biggest challenge is underdevelopment, we have to tackle impediments to development. Corruption is the biggest impediment to development. Corruption impedes economic development in a number of ways. When officials with political power demand bribes, resources go into private pockets instead of being channeled towards production. This becomes a great distortion of economic incentives. Corruption is also a kind of regressive tax upon the population. All countries have petty corruption. You know, the type which is carried out by poorly paid officials. But the largest amount of stolen money goes into the pockets of elites who use their power to divert resources meant for the general population. Public officials who seek payoffs in the form of bribes in order to do their work waste a lot of time and delay projects. Wealth creators spend valuable time chasing officials to make decisions instead of focusing on running their businesses. At the same time, officials spend most of their time in a kind of gamesmanship to seek private gain at public expense. This is what economists call rent seeking. We reject the belief that bribery fosters efficiency by acting as a lubricant to incentivize officials to act quickly in processes such as land transactions, registration of businesses, securing licenses, and getting appointments with high-level officials. We reject this school of thought and believe that procedure, because where there is a general perception that officials and politicians are corrupt, the legitimacy of the government declines in the eyes of the common people, and the sense of trust that is critical if the state is to run will collapse. To borrow the word of President Trump, I am here to drain the swamp. We must stop the hemorrhage of public resources. That is the key task of the next Speaker of Parliament. So, I propose a diagnostic endeavor to carry out a forensic audit of Parliament, the finances, assets, streamlining workforce issues such as recruitment, remuneration, promotion, capacity building. That is why today I celebrate our brave and public-spirited effort to stop individual power from overtaking institution power in Parliament. A candidacy is not simply a political challenge to the parliamentary status quo. It's a moral challenge. As the President said in Chankwanzi, the final verdict is with the members of the 12th Parliament. Anybody else can only recommend. We need humility. If the President of Uganda can say, we have made our recommendations, then what is the point of having an election? But more importantly, power must be driven by purpose. The office of Speaker is very powerful. It gives you an opportunity to do good things, but it can also give you an opportunity to do bad things, as we have seen. Power without purpose will lead to a disaster. And that purpose must be based on the interests of the people of Uganda. We want a Speaker who will lead with purpose. We don't want a Speaker who is a project. That is why we must insist that power must be our servant and not our master. And have consistently declared the purpose for which I seek the position. Yesterday, the chairman of the NRM Electoral Commission made a public statement where he said, as of now, the NRM does not have a candidate for speaker. He said it. The symbols we saw on ballot papers are well known. The chairman of the Electoral Commission made a statement and posted a video on X. And today, I saw the General Secretary of the PLU saying he agrees with that statement. I hope after this press conference, there will be less confusion. And I really ask the members of 12th Parliament, stop the confusion. You are all over the place, swinging in all sorts of directions. Even your followers now don't know what to do. The person who made the pronouncement in Mukono has said he now agrees with what the chairman of the NRM Electoral Commission has said. And this is a summary of what the chairman of the Electoral Commission said. So, to be the speaker, who has demonstrated that more than me in this period? And he said that the stepping down from being a candidate by the former speaker has, and I quote, set the ground for a new process. As a cooperating partner of the NRM, I have read and mastered the NRM Constitution. I've read their code of conduct, and I pay attention to what their leaders say. After all, if you are seated in a vehicle which someone else is driving, you have got to watch how they are driving. He said that the choice is now on the party to do the roadmap. He then said, the chairman will guide us on the roadmap. But he also mentioned the relationship between the NRM and the PLU. He called the PLU a pressure group. And he said, but what I know is that they are within the NRM. He also said the Central Executive Committee can also do head hunting. So he has clarified on that statement, the Mukono pronouncement. What we want to avoid is improvisation. Someone who has not actively shown interest, being interested, and therefore appearing to be a project. That reminds me of a president called Godfrey Binaisa. You know, Godfrey Binaisa was lobbying to be, I don't know whether an ambassador. Then they told him, you are going to be president. You can imagine the disaster which followed. He started doing things. He's the one who introduced that famous phrase, Okugwa Mubintu. Falling in. We are going to be alive, all of us. I don't know how things will move after this. My job is to warn. But I'm also a respected elder within the PLU. as you know. So let me offer some advice. And this is not the first time I've offered advice. The first advice I gave one time was when some of them wanted to register a political party. And I told them that we also face that dilemma as members of Uganda Young Democrats, UYD. There was a time we were so frustrated with our party. It appeared stuck, they were bickering, they were slow. We wanted to form a party. Fortunately, we've eventually debated and we agreed that no. What we should endeavor to do is to ensure that one of us takes over the leadership of the party. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, Mao.
It is the UYD which